Hello. There have been plenty of fantasy war games over the years, many of them making use of amazing miniatures. But that's not the only way to play fantasy battles. You can use tokens, you can use dice, and you can use cards. And that is exactly what this new game, Warfront, is all about. I have been sent a prototype copy of Warfront by the indie game company who's developed it, Hexor. They wanted me to play a few games and share my thoughts, and that is exactly what this video is. I'm going to talk about my initial reactions to it, the rules in a quick overview, and what I think of the game overall. I'm Jordan, this is Jordan Sorcery, and today I'm talking about Warfront. Warfront is a two-player fantasy war game designed by Hector Clegg and released by Hexor. Each player has their own army full of units and characters represented by different playing card-sized cards. With the simple rank and flank rules, battles can be fought on pretty much any tabletop, using the deck of cards, some d6 dice, and a couple of rulers. So, where to start? Well, I guess a good place would be with something that's not actually in this wargame at all, and that is miniatures. So I absolutely adore miniatures. I've collected them for years and years and years. I love having them. I love looking at them. I love playing with them. I still just love to have that collection and to marvel over beautiful models. But as many of you may well know, I am not the best at assembling and painting my miniatures, and that has plagued me throughout my entire gaming career. There have been many games, and I can only apologize to my opponents for this, where various components I have blue tacked onto my models because I haven't finished assembling them have just fallen off mid-game. Particularly Tau crisis suits, where I didn't want to commit the model to a specific loadout, so I would change the options between games and just never got round to magnetizing or properly sorting them out. So just appalling, and I know I am the worst possible opponent for many people to have unpainted miniatures that don't even stay together on the battlefield. But that is my list of sins. We'll come back to that one day. So, yes, I love miniature war games and I love playing them, but I don't always do the best by those miniatures. That is something that has led me to many card games over the course of my hobby career as well. I love fielding an enormous army of amazing samurai in Legend of the Five Rings. That can have beautiful art and beautiful, the spirit of these enormous armies, but you don't have to actually build them. You've got the cards that already show those amazing armies straight away, and that is really, really cool. The same goes for things like Battletech, even Magic the Gathering, where your forces are assembled from the cards, and they just look awesome straight out of the deck. And that is an appealing prospect when it comes to a full-scale wargame. The setup and strip down of a miniatures wargame is like the cleaning of the Augean stables. It is just an enormous undertaking, especially if you're not lucky enough to have a dedicated gaming area. Having to clear that enormous space if you're playing on the floor to get all the terrain out, all of that sort of stuff, it can be a real undertaking. So the fact that there is this new wargame that is tackling the actual idea of setup and play in a brand new way is really, really fun to me. Putting everything onto a deck of cards, that is cool. This is not the first time anybody has taken the wargame idea and put it onto cards. Even Warhammer itself has been card-based in the past, both as a collectible card game, but also Disc Wars, which was released under Fantasy Flight Games, which is a full wargame using cardboard discs for your units instead of miniatures. So there is a precedence for this. There's lots of different games. There was a Disc Wars before they took on the Warhammer IP. So there's other people who have attempted this. But to do it in a lovely, neat card package is something that is really, really appealing. And that appeal is only added to because of the gorgeous card art. The thing that wallops you in the face instantly when you get Warfront set up is that art. The box and card art are by the very talented Andre Louis Kerman Merlin, and they are a huge selling point for the game. I really like the cartoon punk aesthetics. It's colourful and vibrant. It reminds me of artists I really like Hamish Steele, Will Kirkby, and Simon Gain. And it almost has a kind of fun feel of like a Louise Sugden miniature painting style too. There are 2 factions in the base set. The Zenith Guard are colourful and noble, clad in bright gold armour and employing the use of advanced weaponry like laser guns and walking steam tanks, as well as more traditional forces such as knights, spearmen, and battle mages. Their opposite number are the Corrupted Legion, a cavalcade of mutants, monsters, and treacherous battle-hardened warriors. Demon lords, corrupted knights, and ogre mercenaries rally to their banners and seek to spread foul corruption throughout the land. I was not familiar with Hexor before they reached out about this game, but because it looked so cool, I really wanted to play it. I did take a look at some of their previous work, and one game that they've released in the past did use generative AI. Now, I have talked on the channel before about my position regarding that. I'm really against the use of Gen AI for the creation of text or the creation of art for a number of reasons. I think economically and ethically, it's not a great idea, and I also think creatively it's not a great idea either, because of what I think it will do in the long term to our culture and our sort of creative expressions. But that is a broader conversation. And actually, what I was really heartened by when I took a look at this game was that it doesn't use any generative AI. As far as I know, there is no Gen AI in this at all, so I don't want to hold that previous game against this one. In fact, this game makes a great argument for why not to use it. Because when you look at this game, it is gorgeous. All of the art is absolutely lovely, and there's so much character from it. The expression from the artist is all over this game, and it brings it to life in such a fun way. There's not a great deal of lore to this world just yet. There is some on the website that you can check out, but without that lore in place, I assume it will evolve over time. A lot of the heavy lifting for the world of this game and the sort of immersion, yeah, it comes from the rules, but it also massively comes from the cards. If you want to spend time looking at these cards and with this world, the card art has to grab you, and it's so vibrant and poppy and great that I think it does a terrific job. It is a huge, huge win for this game. So in-game, the rules are actually really quite simple. You've got 2 cards representing each unit or character. One of them is actually on the game board, and one of them is your reference card that's got your statistics and your special rules. There are not that many stats to worry about. You've got movement, you've got your shooting ability, you've got the range of that, and then you've got your attack and defense as well. In your turn, you can activate one of your units which can move and shoot, and enter combat with enemy units. Movement and weapon ranges are measured in inches and listed on the stats card, with line of sight drawn from the forward-facing arrow on each card to their target. To hit with ranged or melee attacks, you roll as many dice as your stat, looking for 4+. The target then makes a defense roll for each successful hit, aiming to get equal to or below their defense value. Failed defense rolls result in damage to the unit. Every single unit in the game can take just 3 damage before it is removed from the game in the next consolidation round. There are some more complications like flanking. Defenders are less effective if attacked in the flank, or extremely vulnerable if attacked from behind, for instance. And some units have special glory abilities that can increase damage or defense or have other important effects. But overall, the rules are easy to understand and quick to master. For me, the relative simplicity of the rules is a huge strength for the game. In fact, the entire point here seems to be that you can pick up this game, carry it around, take it wherever you want, and then set it up really easily. And then it is quick to learn and quick to play. I am a huge fan of that. That's a big, big win, because you could take this on the train, you could take it to the pub, you can take it on holiday, and you can play a war game pretty much anywhere with a minimum of fuss. Each turn is split really simply. You have an activation phase, a consolidation phase, a combat phase, and then another consolidation phase. Activation between sides is alternating, so you roll off to start, and then take it in turns activating one of your units. In your activation phase, you can move and shoot, and then in your combat phase, you can fight combat. There is a consolidation phase between each of those because you don't remove dead units until they've had their chance to do whatever it might be in that particular moment. So if you're in combat with someone and you kill that unit, they still get to fight back because you don't consolidate and remove them from the table until the end of that phase. Where the additional complexity comes into the game is through the glory abilities. These are special abilities that most units will have access to. There are some generic ones and then some specific ones for different units and characters. Everybody starts the game with a certain number of glory points, and then you can build up more of those points as you roll 6s in your shooting, attacking, and defense rolls. You can then spend those in order to enact different glory abilities. Some of those are simple things like a charge or a fallback maneuver, and some of them are far more complicated, adding additional damage to attacks and giving you all of sorts of special magical capabilities. The cool thing about these different abilities is that they stack up in a sort of, it kind of reminded me of Magic the Gathering's old first one in, last one out, or last one in, first one out. That's the way it goes, where you stack up the abilities into an abilities chain. If I declare that I'm going to spend some glory points so that this unit can do something, and then you want to react to that and spend some points so your unit can do something, and then I might have another one that goes on top, you might then have another ability as well. We've now got 4 abilities chained up in a stack. You were the last one to declare something, so that happens first. Then mine, then yours again, and then mine, that was the first one I declared, happens at the end. And those things allow you to react and sort of, in the actual special abilities kind of usage, you're sort of having a little strategic and tactical kind of battle as well. And then resolving things in a certain order allows you to manipulate that and sort of strategize around it, which is cool. Movement and shooting ranges for the game are measured in inches, just using a ruler that you've got to hand. It did occur to me that it would be really fun if actually, instead of a ruler, measurements were by cards. So you included a card that either had the inches on it or had a certain number of card lengths. Perhaps you've got a long range and a short range. Stuff like that I think could be really cool and really lean into the use of the card deck itself. I believe there's something in line for that in the future of the game. I would love to see it because I think that that is potentially great. In fact, there's a world where you don't even use dice. You just randomly select cards, 1 to 6. That would be quite fun as well. Just being able to take an entire war game in one deck of cards really does appeal to me. So yeah, I think that there is a potential future for the game to develop in lots of interesting ways. Whether or not they do something like that, there's still a lot of options here and still some good fun to be had. I think the inclusion of stuff like terrain is really cool. This can block your line of sight and make it harder to shoot, give you more defense when you're being attacked. I think this is really good. In the prototype, there are only the same terrain types, but I'm assuming there will be more in the actual box set. I would hope so. These are cool, but I'd love to see ruined towers and trees and all sorts of stuff like that. Again, there's world building you can do here that is in the visual side of things that I think would be really beneficial. And then there is another type of card included in the prototype set. I don't know if this is final. I don't know if this is going to develop and change. This is a status tracker. This was one of the few things that I had a bit of an issue with in the set. So in here, we've got 5 different levels. We have resolute, shaken, damaged, status, and broken. It does suggest in the rules that you can cut these up and use these as tokens and apply them where necessary. But then it also sort of suggests that you could put this behind a card and then sort of move it to indicate the level that's relevant to that unit based on where it's sticking out. Now, I'm not really sure how you could do that when you've got 5 different levels, because you're going to have multiple different statuses visible behind a unit card if you sort of move it up and down. So I wondered if you could have potentially done it down the different sides, just 4 statuses, 1 on each plane, 1 on each edge of the card, and then that would be something you could use behind a unit card. Or even, you could potentially have had double-sided and done something with that. But that is not the worst issue with anything, really. It's a minor concern. There's also something around, as you can see, resolute and broken. The font of the O kind of looks like an A, so it looks like resolute and bracken. I read it that time pretty much. I read it that way pretty much every time I looked at it, which was frustrating. But again, not the biggest issue. One thing I did think was strange is that every unit has 3 wounds, and you're actually tracking the status of the unit using these. So you're going to start off resolute and become shaken and become damaged and then become broken. But that's 4 different status levels. I couldn't find anything in the rules, and I may have missed it. It could be something that's in the final rules, but I couldn't understand why you would get to a sort of level 3 where you're damaged. That's 3 wounds you've taken, so you are broken and going to die. So what's the difference between a damaged and a broken level? I don't know. This is all sort of stuff that could come back in feedback and could be developed on, and I'm sure will be answered in FAQs. The final version of the rulebook, I'm sure, will have changes to its ordering, and there's some things that I'd like to see sort of clarified just a little bit to make it easier to learn in that first instance. But for the most part, the simplicity of the rules does really make it very easy to learn, and then the playing of the game is where you get to grips with all of the different abilities, and it's sort of, the tactical and the strategic elements emerge from the gameplay. Before wrapping up, I just wanted to take another moment to dwell on these cards and the awesome art on them. Merlin's art is wonderfully characterful, and each unit has a lot to love about them. Arrayed on the battlefield, this game looks great, and it is an impressive thing to witness, despite the fact that these cards are super easy to deploy and clear up. The simple rules are still satisfying to play, and there are loads of tactical options despite that relative simplicity. So, in summary, I would say that I had a lot of fun playing Warfront. The cards are great to look at, the art is just really, really nice. The rules are quite intuitive, quite easy to learn, and there is enough depth once you start playing that it does give you a lot of options and is a nice strategic war game. I suppose, besides that minor thing about the status tracker, my only other question or concern, I suppose, would be the actual size of the board. It suggests the recommended size is 36 by 24 inches. That is still quite a large board to play on. I would love, given that it is such a small package, the ability to play this on a much smaller table would be really welcome. Now, it says that's a recommended board size. You can play it on a much smaller table if you want. The only issue with that is going to be that the ranges for movement and the ranges for shooting aren't going to scale down. They're already set at the higher end for a larger table, which means that shooting units are going to have more difficulty the smaller the table gets. The value from those units are going to be less impactful. So I think that I would have loved it to be just a bit smaller, to have encouraged a smaller table presence. That would have been really, really fun. That can absolutely be done. You can scale things down yourself. Besides those relatively minor points, though, I think that this is a solid system, and I think the more stuff that is developed for it and released, the more it will get complex, and the options are going to expand, and there'll be more and more tactical depth, which will be really rewarding if you start playing and want to continue playing and evolving. The game is currently due to go live on Kickstarter on May 1st. That might change. Some of the dates have moved around because of the unusual global circumstances, but I'm very excited to see it launch. You can go and see all of the additional information about the game. You can chat to Hector Clegg, the designer. Really nice, open to lots of different questions. And I think that there is a huge potential future for this game. I know that base game is going to have more cards in it, more unit types, and points values as well, so that you can do bigger army list creation. You can select your forces. There'll be more diversity of those different armies. That should introduce some new elements. There's going to be scenarios and different ways to win, which I think is really fun as well. So I think the base game will probably offer some good replayability, and then there's also an expansion already in the works that I believe will introduce 2 new factions as well, which is really fun and just continues to expand this world, which I think is great. I think that this is a really nice, neat package that has a lot of potential. I will be interested to see how it develops over time, where additional complexity comes in, where additional options come in, and how it continues to evolve through new scenarios, through new storytelling, potentially new lore. All of that good stuff is really on the table, I think. There's a real potential for this to grow into something really fun. But even if it doesn't, it is a great starter package that will allow you to just play war games on the fly. It's like getting a deck of cards whilst you're on holiday, and instead of playing whist, you can play a proper war game, which I think is great. It has rank and flank. It has lots of intricacies from classic war games, so that is a really fun option. So there you go. Those are my initial thoughts on Warfront after spending some time just loving the card art and playing a few games. I hope that is helpful to you. If you want to find out more, go and check out the Kickstarter. Go and check out the website. There's loads more information. And let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the game and want to see more of it, because I would love to know what kind of community ends up being built and how well this does, because I think this will be an interesting one to watch grow in the future. Thank you very much to Hexor for sending me a copy of the game. Thank you for watching. I'm Jordan, and this is Jordan Sorcery.